Good morning, everyone. We are continuing in our Tanakh Yomi. We're going to do 2 prakim today. Some very interesting stories, very famous stories. Perek Tet, chapter 9 in Sefer Yehoshua. So all the nations around here about how Bnei Israel have defeated all their enemies, defeated Yericho, defeated Ha'ai, and they all gather together to fight against the Jewish people. In Pasuk Bet it says, "Vayitkaptzu yachdav yilachem im Yehoshua v'im Yisrael pe echad." What does that mean, pe echad? One mouth? What does that mean? It means with one counsel, all together. And that has been true throughout history, that the nations of the world, they might not get along with each other on a lot of different issues, but when it comes to their hatred of the Jewish people, that they always find common ground, and they're always able to get together to fight the Jewish people. So, one of these nations, one of the 7 nations, or at least a group of them, living in a place called Givonim, which is in the land of Israel, decides to try to save themselves in a different way. Not by fighting, but by deceiving Bnei Israel. And as it says in Pasuk Dalid, the names of these people are Yoshvei Givon, the people of Givon, the Givonites, right? Vayasu gam hema be'orma. They also did deceitfully. What does that mean, they also? We never saw before this that anybody did anything deceitfully. So what does the words gam hema mean? So the Metzudat David says, just like the Jews did deceitfully in the previous chapter, how they deceived the people of Ai. You remember that they set an ambush and they drew them out of the city, so they also did something deceitfully. The Malbim, however, explains that no, gam hema means just like all the other nations did whatever they thought was good in order to save themselves, which is to fight the Jewish people. They also did something to save themselves, but they took a different path. Their path was to try to trick the Jewish people, and they actually succeeded, as we'll see. So what did they do? They made themselves out to be as if they are emissaries, shlichim, messengers, and they took worn out clothing and shoes and backpacks, and everything they had was worn out, including the bread that they had was dry and moldy. And they came to the Jewish people, they came to Yehoshua, and they said, we want to make a covenant with you. We came from a far off land, and we want to make a covenant with you. We want to make peace with you. So, they were a little bit skeptic about this, and they asked, tell me your story. Where are you from? So they said, we're from a very far off land, and we heard all the great things that the God of Israel did for the Jewish people, how he split the Yarden and all these different things, and what he did to Sichon and Og, which is already still back in the times of the Torah of Moshe Rabbeinu, and our elders sent us to go towards you, and again, to make a covenant with you, that we want to be part of you, we want to be with you, because we're so awe-stricken by your God and everything that he's done. And they said, look at our bread is all dry and moldy, and our clothing is all worn out, etc., etc., etc. And after this whole explanation, look at Pasuk Yudalid, Vayikchu ha'anashim mitzeidam, the people, meaning the Jewish people, the elders of Israel, who they were talking to, probably including Yehoshua, took of their tzeidah. Tzeidah means the provisions. They took some of their provisions, ve'et pi Hashem lo shalu, and this was their problem. They forgot to ask God. They should have said, we'll see. Let's ask the Urim V'Tumim, let's ask a Navi, let's ask, who knows, let's try to find out what God says about this. But they didn't do that. And that was the real problem here, why they were tricked. But before we go on, what does that mean that the people took of their provisions? They actually took some. Why would they take their provisions? It was old, moldy, dry bread. So there's three different explanations in the Mefarshim. Rashi explains it's just a metaphor. They took their words. Shetzadum, tzeidam doesn't mean provisions. It means tzeidah also means to trap, right? In other words, they took their words that they used to trap the Jewish people, meaning they accepted their story. That's the way Rashi explains it. The Metzudas David says that they took the proof from their provisions. They looked at their provisions and said, wow, this bread really is dry and moldy. It must be that you've been on a trip, on a journey for a long, long time. So they accepted the proof that they brought from their tzeidah, from their provisions. Another pshat that the Metzudas David brings is they actually took some of their provisions and ate it together with them as a sign of kritat brit, of making a covenant. Usually when you make a covenant with somebody, you sit down to a meal. So they took some of this bread and they ate a meal with them and made a covenant with them. Okay, yeah?
Would there be health problems with eating that bread?
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Patakum, you're saying, and things like that, yeah.
Not these 2 days. No more.
Huh?
No pot or issue.
Yeah, I'm not so sure. Yeah, right, exactly. That's true. All right, you're right. That's also a problem. Okay, so what happens? So it seems great. We made a covenant. We made a brit with another nation who wanted to sort of convert or be part of us. But the problem is that 3 days later, after they made this brit, they found out the truth. It doesn't say how. It doesn't say how they found out, but somehow they realized that they've been duped. And what happens? Bnei Yisrael go, which probably means the leaders, representatives of Bnei Yisrael, go to them and they reprimand them, basically, and they say, why did you trick us? That wasn't fair. That wasn't correct. And therefore, because you did this to us, on the one hand, we're not going to kill you because we swore to you that we're going to make a covenant with you. And we can't break our word that we swore in the name of God. However, we're going to punish you for what you did. And we're going to make you into chotvei eitzim v'shoavei mayim l'chol ha'ida. You are going to be our water carriers and our wood choppers forever, basically. And in Pasuk Chavbet, Yehoshua himself speaks to them and reprimands them and says to them, why did you trick us? And if you look at Pasuk Chav Gimel, Va'ata arurim atem, you are cursed. There will never cease to be from you avadim, you're going to be perpetual slaves. And as we said, water carriers and wood choppers for the Jewish people. And then he says, basically he just reprimanded them and cursed them, so they felt the need to explain themselves. And they said, the truth is, what happened was that we heard all that your God has done for you, and we also heard that he commanded you to destroy all of us. So we simply did not want to be destroyed. We didn't want to be killed. So therefore, we decided to do this trick in order to save ourselves. I mean, it's actually a good explanation. The only problem is that they could have done something like the Girgashites did. They could have said, we'll make peace with you. We're not going to fight. We'll leave. We'll just pick up and leave. We'll pack our bags and go. That's what they should have done. But instead, they tricked the Jewish people.
What was going to happen?
Huh? What did they think was going to happen?
I mean, they would find out eventually. So then they
well, you say that, and they did find out eventually, but I guess you know what? It's like anybody who commits a crime. They don't think they're going to get caught. And you say, most criminals get caught. Like, what are you people, stupid? Why are you doing a crime? Why are you going to steal? You're going to get caught. Everybody who does a crime, these 6 terrorists who escaped from prison, they obviously thought that they were going to get away. So Baruch Hashem, 4 of them have already been caught. Hopefully the other 2 will also be caught. Everyone thinks they're going to make it. But, I guess they thought that they were going to succeed. And in the last pasuk, let's read the last pasuk together. Chav Zayin, Vayitneim Yehoshua bayom hahu chotvei eitzim v'shoavei mayim la'eda v'limizbach Hashem ad hayom hazeh el hamakom asher yivchar, the place that God chose, which of course is Jerusalem. So the Mefarshim explain, what does it mean la'eda v'limizbach Hashem? So it's the Malbim who says it's two separate time periods. La'eda, until the Beis HaMikdash is built. They're going to be water carriers and wood choppers for the Jewish people. Once the Beis HaMikdash is going to be built, that's going to be their job. They are going to work to bring water and chop wood for the Beit HaMikdash. That is chapter 9. Now chapter 10. It's quite a long chapter. We'll try to do it very quickly because a lot of it is just, you'll see, is just different battles with different nations. We'll get to that. But it is a continuation actually of the previous chapter, because 5 Amorite kings heard what the Givonites did, that they made a covenant with the Jewish people, and they were really angry about that. So they gathered together to fight against the Givonim and to destroy them. Who are these 5 kings? If you look at Pasuk Gimel, Adoni Tzedek, the king of Yerushalayim, right? Before Yerushalayim was ours, it was the Jebusites. Hoham, the king of Hebron. Piram, the king of Yarmut. Yafia, the king of Lachish. And Devir, the king of Eglon. So they all come to fight against the Givonim. So what do the Givonim do? They send a message to Yehoshua. Save us. We made a covenant with you. You have to, you have to help us. And Yehoshua, excuse me, Yehoshua does exactly that. Again, the Jewish people keep their word. We made a covenant with them. We're going to be on their side. And this time Hashem promises Yehoshua that they are going to win this battle. Yehoshua doesn't have to worry. And Yehoshua Be'emet fights them and deals them a great blow and pursues after them. And then something very famous, a very famous event in the Tanakh. What happens is, while he's running after them, on Pasuk Yud Aleph, Vayi benusa mipnei Yisrael heim b'morad Beit Choron. They were in the, thank you. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam sha'akol niyeh b'dvaro. Amen. Baruch Hashem, thank you. They were in the decline, the slope of Beit Choron. They were going down. And Hashem hishlich alehem avanim gedolot min hashamayim. Out of the sky comes falling humongous boulders. From the continuation of the pasuk, it sounds like it was hail. It was more like hail, right? Ad azeka vayamutu rabim asher metu me'avnei abarad me'asher hagu b'nei Yisrael b'charev. More people died from these stones that fell from the heaven than died from being killed by the soldiers of Yehoshua. Yeah, it's like a meteor, or again, at the end of the pasuk, it calls it barad. Barad, so it seems like more like a hail. It could have been pieces of ice, okay? But it sounds like, again, it calls it avanim. So avanim is not barad, but it calls them both things. I don't know. I don't know exactly what it was, but it was something that simply killed them all, yeah.
Could it have been like an avalanche that they were in the sky?
Sounds like it came from the sky, like a rain down from the sky, not rolled down from a mountain. Okay. And then another very famous thing happens in Pasuk, starting Pasuk Yud Bet. Yehoshua at this point realizes that it's almost about to get dark, and he's not going to be able to pursue and kill all of his enemies, and they're going to escape. So what does he do? He famously turns to God and says, "Please Hashem, shemesh begivon dam, make the sun stop in Givon, v'yareach be'emek hayalon, and the moon in Emek Hayalon." By the way, these places are very close to us. Emek Hayalon, mamash, like a 10-15 minute drive from here. Yeah.
How did he make the sun stop if the earth revolves around the sun?
Well, probably that means that the earth stopped. But from our perspective, it looked like the sun stopped.
How do you make the moon and the earth like what does it
Are you doubting God's capabilities? God can do whatever he wants. He made it stop. He made it stop. How did he do it? I don't know. Yeah. Right, it's a good. Good question. I don't know. So what happened? So Yehoshua asked this from God, and God fulfilled his request, and the sun stopped, and the moon stopped, right? And for a full day, by the way, for close to 24 hours, it stopped in its place. And look at Pasuk Yudalet, a beautiful Pasuk. Velo hayak hayomahu lefanav acharav. There was never a day before or after this, like this day, lishmoa Hashem bekol ish, that Hashem listened to the voice of a man. Yehoshua asked Hashem to do this, and Hashem listened exactly what he said. Ki Hashem nilcham liYisrael, because Hashem fought for the Jewish people. Okay, so Yehoshua now pursues the rest of his enemies, and the 5 kings themselves, right, they hide in a cave, and they were found. So Yehoshua tells his soldiers, put a boulder or put stones by the entrance to the cave so that they can't get out. And in the meantime, Yehoshua goes and continues smiting his enemies and killing all of his enemies. And the Tanakh here also points out that not a single Jewish soldier was killed. Halavai, we should be zocheh to that not a single Jewish soldier should ever be killed. Amen. Right? Bezrat Hashem. And then after Yehoshua destroys all his enemies, he goes back to the cave, pulls the 5 kings out of the cave, kills them. Oh, I'm sorry. Before that, very important, Yehoshua calls the officers of the Jewish people over, and he says, and he puts the 5 kings on the ground, makes them lie down on the ground, and he tells the officers to put their heels, their feet, on the necks of the 5 kings, the 5 Amorite kings, and it's a sign to say that just like we were able to stamp on our enemies here, we will also continue doing that. Hashem should continue that for all of the enemies of Israel. We should trot upon them and destroy them. Then Yehoshua kills the 5 kings, hangs them, and as we saw yesterday also, he eventually, by the end of the day, takes them down from the tree and buries them in that cave that they were hiding. He buries them in the cave and puts a whole pile of stones in front of it. Again, one day we might find an archaeological dig. They're going to find a cave with bones of 5 people. That would be amazing, and it would be a proof for the Tanakh. There are plenty of archaeological digs that prove the Tanakh, but that would be a really amazing one. Yeah.
So why didn't, at this time, why don't a lot of the kings just, the other kings that are around, why don't they just leave? I mean, again, they wanted to make war maybe, but it makes sense. It doesn't really make a lot of sense for them to say, given what just happened. So.
Again, they also think, we're stronger than them. We have more. Okay, it's true that their God did that. Don't forget they were also big idol worshippers. So they think, we have strong gods too. Our gods have done amazing things also. So we will be able to conquer them. I guess that's what their svara was. Yes?
Why didn't they just let them get away if they we're going to come back?
Who?
The Amorites. They probably would have run away. They wouldn't want to come back.
Because again, there's a mitzvah in the Torah, hacharem tacharem, you have to destroy them. It's not enough just let them run away. They were going to run away back to their cities.
Why the 7 nations in particular?
Why?
Why the 7 nations in particular?
Because they were evil.
Yeah.
They were very evil, and their ways are evil, and they're a bad influence, and Hashem commanded us to kill them, just like Amalek. Yeah. Right? Hashem knows. Yeah. We can't do that on our own, but if Hashem tells us there are these nations that have to be killed, it's not because we're mean and cruel, it's because that's for the betterment of the world, that these nations should be killed out. So anyway, there's a big mitzvah to do that, and that's why Yehoshua was trying to fulfill this mitzvah. Okay. The rest of the parak, I know it's very long, but the rest of the parak is pretty much just a list of different kings and places where Yehoshua also conquered. So first, it's a place called Makedah, then Livna, and then Lachish, and then Horam Melech Gezer, and then Eglon, and then Chevron, and then Devir, and basically, after all that, if you go towards the end of the parak, pasuk mem, a summary of everything. Vayakeh Yehoshua et kol haaretz. Yehoshua smote the entire land, he killed everybody. Hahar v'negev v'ashfela v'ashedot et kol malchehem. He killed all these different cities and all their kings. Lo hishir sarid. He didn't leave one remnant. Ve'et kol neshama hecharim kasher tziva Hashem l'kei Yisrael, like God commanded. Again, not because of cruelty, because God, who knows everything, commanded us that these people need to be eliminated. Because if they stay, they're going to cause trouble to the Jewish people and to the world in general. And that's what happens. And at the very end, Yehoshua, after all these battles, comes back to Gilgal. That's their base, right? Vayashav Yehoshua v'chol Yisrael imo al machaneh Gilgala. And Baruch Hashem, he is successful in conquering his enemies. But as we'll see in the upcoming prakim, there were still a few that were left.